Descalza y hambrienta, suplico un plato caliente, lo que pasó después te dejará helado. She was born in a small village tucked between hills, where the houses were old, painted in faded colors, and the streets were dusty and uneven. From a very young age, Mariana learned to notice the struggles that surrounded her family. Her mother worked tirelessly, taking care of the house, the small garden behind it, and her younger brother. Her father had passed away when she was just a baby, leaving them with little more than memories and a small patch of land that barely grew enough vegetables to feed them. As a child, Mariana's days were a mixture of school and chores. She loved school, even if she often went hungry. Her favorite moments were when the teacher would ask questions and she could answer them correctly, feeling proud that she had learned something new. But as the years went by, life grew more complicated. Her mother fell ill with a disease that doctors in the nearby town could not fully treat. Money became tighter, and every coin had to be spent on medicine, leaving almost nothing for food, let alone shoes or clothes for Mariana and her brother. By the time she was 12, Mariana was already helping her mother carry water from the well, wash clothes in the cold stream, and cook meals from whatever scraps they could gather. Her childhood was not filled with toys or games. Instead, it was filled with responsibility and worry. She watched as her mother's health worsened, sometimes unable to stand without help, yet always managing to smile at Mariana and her brother, trying to hide the pain in her eyes. Mariana would often stay awake at night, listening to the coughs and groans from her mother's bed, wishing she could take the sickness away herself. School became harder to attend. Some days, Mariana would go hungry because there was no food left in the house. Sometimes, the teacher would notice the dark circles under her eyes and the empty look in her face. "Are you feeling well?" the teacher would ask, her voice gentle but worried. Mariana would just nod, too proud or too embarrassed to tell anyone that she had not eaten all day. Hunger was something she had learned to hide, even from people who cared. At 15, Mariana's world changed forever. Her mother's illness became critical, and soon after, her mother passed away quietly one night. Mariana woke to an empty house, the cold morning sun falling on the small bed where her mother used to sleep. Her heart felt hollow, and the weight of reality pressed on her in a way that she had never felt before. Her father was gone, her mother was gone, and now, it seemed, her home and safety were gone too. Her little brother clung to her, crying softly, and Mariana tried to be strong for him, even though inside she felt lost and afraid. With no relatives able to take them in, Mariana had to make a difficult choice. She could either stay in the village and risk going hungry every day, or she could leave and try to find a better place where they might survive. The streets of the nearby town called to her, a place where people might offer work, food, or shelter. With her brother's small hand in hers, she walked toward the unknown, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. Every step on the dusty road felt heavier than the last. The sun burned her back and her feet ached from the thin shoes she had worn for years. But she could not stop. She had no choice but to move forward. As they reached the town, Mariana realized just how different life was outside the village. The streets were crowded with people rushing somewhere, carrying bags, talking loudly, and ignoring those who looked weak or poor. The buildings were taller, the air smelled different, and everywhere she looked, there seemed to be something she did not understand. Her brother's small face looked around in awe, but Mariana only saw danger. She had heard stories of children being taken from the streets or forced into work, and she wanted to protect him at all costs. The first nights in the town were the hardest. They had no home, no money, and no food. Mariana learned quickly that people could be kind, but they could also be indifferent. Some gave them coins or leftover bread, while others shouted at them to leave. At first, Mariana tried to find work cleaning houses or carrying goods, but most people ignored a girl so young. Each day was a test of endurance. Her stomach ached constantly, and the thin shoes on her feet did little to protect her from the cold stones or rough roads. The nights were worse. They had no shelter, and the wind cut through their thin clothing. Mariana held her brother close, sharing the little warmth they had, whispering stories to distract him from the cold, even though she herself was shivering. Despite everything, Mariana never gave up hope. She remembered her mother's words, "Even in darkness there is a light. Keep looking for it." She clung to that idea, walking through the streets each day, hoping to find anyone who could help. She learned to watch for kind gestures, a shopkeeper leaving a basket of unsold fruit, a stranger giving a piece of bread, or someone allowing them to rest in a doorway for a few hours. Every small act of kindness felt like a miracle, but hunger was relentless. Mariana's stomach was a constant reminder of her reality, and every day was a struggle to find enough to eat. She learned to beg quietly, to sit in corners where people might see her but not ignore her completely. She avoided the main streets where the crowd was too large, moving instead to quieter alleys, hoping someone would notice her need. Each meal, when it came, felt like a blessing. Even a piece of bread or a bowl of porridge could make her feel like the world had not completely forgotten her. Through it all, Mariana never stopped dreaming. She dreamed of a home, of a small room where her brother and she could sleep safely, where they could eat without fear, and where she could go back to school. She imagined herself reading books, learning new things, and maybe even helping others who were in the same situation. Those dreams kept her moving forward, even when the world seemed cruel and unkind. Mariana's story in those first days in the town is one of courage and survival. She learned quickly that life could be harsh, but she also learned that small acts of kindness could change everything. She was just 15, but she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Every morning she woke up with hope, and every night she held on to that hope as she wrapped her brother in her arms. Even in despair, she believed that something better could come. And little did she know, her life was about to change in a way she could never have imagined, through a simple act that would give her hope and warmth for the first time in what felt like forever. Hunger had become Mariana's constant companion. Every morning, she woke up with an emptiness in her stomach that felt heavier than her thin body could carry. The streets of the town were crowded and noisy, yet they offered no comfort. People rushed past her, carrying bags of food, lunchboxes, and warm drinks, completely unaware of the cold girl with tired eyes who walked barefoot beside her little brother. Some days they managed to gather a few scraps from the market or the back of a bakery, but it was never enough. Each bite they managed to get felt like a small victory, yet it also reminded them of how much more they needed. The sun was rising over the town, casting its early light on the cracked pavement and the worn-out walls. Mariana held her brother's hand tightly, feeling his tiny fingers tremble from the cold. "We have to keep moving," she whispered, trying to sound braver than she felt. Her own feet were raw from walking on rough roads, and the thin shoes she wore had holes that let the chilly morning air through. She could feel every stone and every crack, each step a reminder of her struggle. Finding food became the most important task of each day. Mariana learned to notice small details that others overlooked. She would see the bakery owner take out leftover bread, the street vendors cleaning their tables, or the kind woman giving coins to a child on the corner. She began to plan where to go each day, which streets might offer the best chance of finding food, and which places were too dangerous to approach. Every decision could make the difference between hunger and survival. Despite the fear and exhaustion, Mariana never lost her careful awareness. She understood that in this town, kindness was rare, but it existed. She remembered the faces of the few people who had given her and her brother something to eat, and she held on to that memory like a lifeline. If someone can help, maybe there are more people like that, she thought, even though doubt often crept in when they went hours without a single coin or crumb. One particularly cold morning, Mariana felt the weight of despair more heavily than ever. Her stomach rumbled painfully, and her thin clothes did little to keep the chill away. She had searched the streets for hours, looking for any kind of food, but the market had barely opened, and most vendors had nothing to spare. Her brother's small face was pale and worried, and Mariana felt a pang of guilt for not being able to give him even a simple meal. She sank down on the edge of a fountain, her back pressed against the cold stone, feeling utterly helpless. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not let them fall. She had learned early on that showing weakness could make people ignore or dismiss her. Instead, she hugged her brother tightly, whispering softly to him. "We will find something soon," she said, even though she wasn't entirely sure she believed it herself. Her brother nodded, trusting her words, and Mariana drew strength from that trust. She had to keep going for him, for herself, and for the tiny flicker of hope that refused to die inside her. As the day went on, Mariana saw a small restaurant at the corner of the street. Its windows steamed with the warmth of cooking, and the smell of soup drifted out, filling the air with a scent that made her stomach ache even more. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should approach. She had never begged in her life, and the thought of asking for help made her heart pound. But the hunger gnawed at her, louder than any fear or pride. Her brother tugged at her hand, looking up at her with wide, trusting eyes. That was all the encouragement she needed. Mariana walked slowly to the door of the restaurant, her bare feet leaving small red marks on the cold pavement. She tried to straighten her back and make herself look brave, even though inside she was trembling. When she stepped inside, the warmth hit her immediately, making her shiver from relief and surprise. People were seated at tables, enjoying their meals, chatting softly. The smell of food was overwhelming, and for a moment Mariana felt a wave of shame. She had never been in a place like this before. She saw the owner of the restaurant, an older man with kind eyes and a gentle smile, wiping a table nearby. Mariana took a deep breath, clutching her brother's hand. Her voice shook as she spoke, almost a whisper. "Please, may I have a plate of food? Just one, please. We haven't eaten all day." Her words were simple, yet full of desperation. She felt exposed, embarrassed, but the rumbling in her stomach made her courage grow stronger. She couldn't let pride stop her now. The man looked at her, his eyes studying the thin, cold girl in front of him. He could see the fear, the hunger, and the exhaustion written all over her small face. Most people might have turned away, afraid of trouble or mess, but something about Mariana touched him. He nodded slowly, and a gentle smile spread across his face. "Come with me," he said, leading them to the kitchen. He handed her a bowl of steaming soup and a piece of warm bread. Mariana could hardly believe it. Her hands shook as she held the bowl, and her brother's eyes widened with wonder. They sat down at a small table, and for the first time in days, they felt warmth not only from the food but from the kindness surrounding them. The taste of the soup was unlike anything Mariana had experienced in weeks. The broth was warm and flavorful, filling her body with energy she hadn't realized she had lost. The bread was soft and fresh, and each bite felt like a small miracle. Her brother ate quietly, savoring each piece as if he understood how precious it was. Mariana watched him, tears welling up in her eyes, overwhelmed by the relief and gratitude she felt. In that moment, she realized that even in the harshest circumstances, small acts of kindness could bring hope and healing. After they finished eating, the man, whose name was Don Archero, sat with them for a few moments, talking gently. He asked about their lives, listened patiently, and never judged them. Mariana told him the truth about her mother, about leaving the village, and about how hard life had been. Don Archero nodded, understanding without pity. "You are strong," he said kindly. "You have survived far more than most children your age. And now, we will make sure you do not have to face this alone for at least a little while." Mariana looked at him in disbelief. She had never known such generosity, and the feeling of safety and care made her heart swell. This moment changed something in Mariana. She realized that survival was not just about finding food or shelter. It was about finding people who cared, even in the smallest ways. Don Archero's kindness gave her courage. She began to feel a spark of hope she hadn't felt in months, maybe even years. She understood that the world could be harsh, but it could also be good, and that sometimes help came in the most unexpected places. The rest of the day passed differently. Mariana and her brother stayed near the restaurant, watching how people came and went. She noticed the smiles of the staff, the laughter of children enjoying meals, and the way Don Archero treated everyone with respect. It was a small world, but it showed her that life could still be gentle and warm, even when she had faced so much cold and hunger. That night, when they found a quiet corner near the restaurant to rest, Mariana hugged her brother and whispered softly, "We will be okay. I promise." For the first time in a long time, she felt a little safe, a little hopeful, and a little stronger. Even though hunger and hardship were not gone, Mariana's encounter with kindness reminded her that life had more to offer than pain. The simple act of receiving a warm meal, of being seen and cared for, became the foundation for something greater. She knew that the next days would still be hard, but now she had a reason to keep moving, to keep surviving, and to keep believing that better days were possible. The memory of that warm soup and the gentle words of Don Archero would stay with her forever, a light in the darkness guiding her and her brother forward. After that first warm meal, Mariana felt a small but powerful spark of hope in her heart. For weeks, she and her brother had wandered the streets, surviving on scraps and whatever small kindnesses they could find. But now, sitting in the restaurant with the smell of fresh bread and hot soup still lingering in her memory, she realized something important. Life could change in a single moment. That thought both excited and frightened her. Change could be good, but it could also be uncertain, and Mariana had learned to be cautious. Don Archero, the owner of the restaurant, had noticed the determination in her eyes as much as the hunger in her stomach. Unlike others who simply felt pity, he seemed genuinely concerned. He had seen children like Mariana before, strong, brave, but struggling against circumstances they did not choose. After a few quiet days, he approached her while she and her brother were sitting near the kitchen door, warming their hands over a small heater. "I want to help you," he said gently. Mariana blinked, unsure if she had heard him correctly. "Help me?" she whispered, almost afraid to hope. Don Archero nodded. "Yes, I can give you a place to stay at night, and if you want, you can work here. I will teach you everything I know. You'll learn to cook, serve, and take care of people. You'll have a chance to start over." Mariana's heart raced. She had never been offered anything like this in her life. Her mind was filled with questions and doubts. Could she really trust him? Would she be able to manage the work? And most importantly, could she keep her brother safe in this new situation? She looked at his small, trusting face, and her resolve grew stronger. If there was a chance to create a better life, she could not ignore it. "Yes," she said quietly but with determination. "I want to try." The first days were not easy. Mariana had never worked in a restaurant before, and even the simplest tasks, washing dishes, wiping tables, carrying trays, felt overwhelming. Her hands were raw from scrubbing, her feet sore from standing, and her back ached from bending over constantly. But each time she faltered, Don Archero was there with patience, guiding her, encouraging her, and showing her that mistakes were just part of learning. Her brother watched her with admiration, proud that his sister was brave enough to take this step, even in the face of hardship. Mariana discovered a rhythm to the work, a small routine that gave her days meaning. She learned to wake up early, sweep the floors, and prepare vegetables for the kitchen. She practiced serving plates to customers with a smile, even when her stomach was empty or her body was tired. With each passing day, she grew stronger, not just physically but mentally. The work was difficult, but it gave her purpose. For the first time since leaving her village, Mariana felt that she was not just surviving, she was building a life. One afternoon, while preparing the restaurant for the evening crowd, Mariana overheard a conversation between Don Archero and a friend. They were discussing a cooking class that the restaurant was hosting, where young people could learn professional skills. Mariana's heart leapt. She had always dreamed of learning more than just basic survival skills. The idea of improving herself, of learning something that could change her future, filled her with excitement. Later that day, she approached Don Archero, her eyes wide with hope. Could I join the class?" she asked hesitantly. Don Archero smiled warmly. "Of course," he replied. "I think you have a natural talent. I want to help you grow it." The cooking class was a world entirely different from what Mariana had known. She learned to measure ingredients accurately, mix sauces to perfection, and understand the rhythm of a kitchen. Each skill she mastered gave her a sense of pride and accomplishment she had never felt before. Her confidence grew, and she began to believe that life could be more than just hunger and fear. Her little brother often watched her from the corner, his eyes filled with admiration. "You're amazing, Mariana," he whispered one day. She smiled at him, feeling proud that she could provide not only food but inspiration and hope. Mariana's days became a blend of work, learning, and care for her brother. She discovered that responsibility could be empowering. She had once thought that being forced to survive alone was a burden too heavy for her shoulders, but now she saw it differently. Each challenge she overcame was a victory. Each skill she learned was a tool for her future. Each small act of courage built her resilience. She began to understand that strength was not just physical, it was also patience, determination, and the ability to keep going even when the world seemed against her. One evening, as the restaurant emptied and the staff began cleaning, Don Archero spoke to Mariana privately. "You have changed so much in just a few weeks," he said, his voice gentle. "I see a bright future for you, but I also see that you carry your past with you. Never forget where you came from. Use it to help others, and it will guide you toward the life you deserve." Mariana listened carefully, feeling the weight of his words. She had always carried pain, loss, and fear, but now she understood that her experiences could also give her wisdom and compassion. The hardships she had faced did not have to define her, they could make her stronger. Mariana began to notice changes in herself beyond the kitchen and the restaurant. She was learning to trust people again, to believe that not everyone would turn away when she asked for help. She laughed more freely with her brother, and she even began to dream about returning to school someday. Her world, once limited to survival and fear, was expanding. She began to feel that she had a purpose, a reason to wake up each morning, and that her past suffering could transform into future opportunities. But life was still challenging. Some days were harder than others. Customers could be impatient, work could be exhausting, and the weight of responsibility for her brother's safety was never far from her mind. Hunger still lurked in her memories, reminding her of how close she had come to losing everything. Yet each difficulty became a lesson. Mariana learned patience, perseverance, and the importance of never giving up. She discovered that small successes could lead to bigger ones, and that kindness, both given and received, could create ripples far beyond a single moment. As the months passed, Mariana's relationship with Don Archero deepened. He was not only a mentor but also a guide, teaching her how to plan, organize, and think critically. She watched him handle challenges with calmness and fairness, and she absorbed every lesson she could. He encouraged her to dream, to aim higher, and to believe in herself. "You have the heart to succeed," he would say. "Never let anyone tell you otherwise. You are stronger than you think." Mariana clung to these words like a lifeline, letting them guide her through moments of doubt or fear. The most profound change, however, was within Mariana herself. She had entered the restaurant a timid, hungry, frightened girl. Now she stood with a quiet confidence, ready to face life's challenges with courage and determination. She realized that her past struggles had given her resilience, her experiences had shaped her empathy, and her determination had unlocked her potential. Mariana began to imagine a future where she could not only survive but thrive, where she could give her brother stability, and perhaps one day, help other children who faced the same struggles she had endured. By the time she had fully settled into the rhythm of the restaurant, Mariana knew that this moment, this opportunity, was the turning point of her life. The act of kindness from Don Archero had opened a door she never expected to find. She had been given a chance not only to eat but to grow, to learn, and to hope. She understood that this was more than just a temporary relief from hunger. It was the beginning of a new chapter, a chapter where courage, kindness, and perseverance could lead her toward a future filled with possibility. Mariana's journey was far from over, but for the first time, she felt that she had control over her destiny. Each day brought new lessons, challenges, and victories, and she faced them with determination and hope. She had survived the streets, endured hunger and cold, and now she had discovered the power of kindness, education, and opportunity. She realized that life could be harsh, but it could also be beautiful, and that even a single act of compassion could change everything. And so, Mariana's life began to transform. From the frightened girl who had begged for a warm meal, she became a young woman learning skills, gaining confidence, and dreaming of a brighter future. She was no longer just surviving. She was building a life, step by step, with courage in her heart and hope in her eyes. And though challenges still lay ahead, Mariana now knew that she had the strength, the wisdom, and the support to face them, and to rise above them, no matter what the world might bring. Life was no longer as desperate as it had been when Mariana and her brother had wandered the streets hungry and cold, but it was not easy either. Every day brought new challenges, responsibilities, and lessons. Mariana had begun to understand that opportunity alone was not enough. She had to work hard, learn quickly, and face the difficulties that life continued to throw at her. Each morning she woke early, preparing the restaurant before the customers arrived, and each evening she cleaned up, tired but proud of what she had accomplished. Her small victories gave her hope, but they also reminded her that life required constant effort. Her brother, though safer now, depended on her entirely. Mariana had to find a delicate balance between work, learning, and caring for him. She often worried about his health, his happiness, and his sense of security. He had been through so much in his short life, and Mariana wanted to make up for all the nights they had spent cold and hungry. She taught him simple lessons, like how to be polite, how to help in small ways around the restaurant, and how to observe kindness in the world. She wanted him to grow strong and wise, just as she was learning to become. The work at the restaurant was hard, far harder than Mariana had imagined. There were days when the kitchen was chaotic, orders were piling up, and customers became impatient. Mariana had to run between tasks, clean up spills, serve meals, and ensure that everything went smoothly. Her body ached constantly, her hands were rough and sore, and she often felt exhausted beyond belief. But even in those moments, she did not give up. She remembered how far she had come, from wandering the streets with nothing, to having a place to stay, food to eat, and a mentor who believed in her. Every challenge was now an opportunity to grow, and she embraced them with determination. Despite her courage, Mariana sometimes felt the weight of fear and doubt pressing down on her. She remembered the nights on the streets, the hunger gnawing at her stomach, the cold that made her shiver until her teeth chattered. Those memories were painful, and they made her wonder if she could ever truly escape the shadow of her past. At times, she would sit quietly in the empty restaurant, her brother asleep beside her, and allow herself to feel the sadness and fear that she had suppressed for so long. It was in those moments that she realized how strong she had become, not because she had never been afraid, but because she had kept moving forward despite the fear. One day, a problem arose that tested Mariana's newfound strength. The restaurant had received a large order for a banquet and Don Archero was away visiting a supplier. Mariana was asked to manage the kitchen in his absence. At first, she felt panic rising in her chest. Could she handle it? What if she made a mistake? What if everything went wrong? She could feel the familiar tension in her stomach, the same feeling she had felt on the streets when hunger and danger loomed over her. But she took a deep breath and reminded herself of all the skills she had learned, all the lessons Don Archero had taught her. She was not the helpless girl she had been months ago. She was capable, and she had to trust herself. The hours that followed were some of the most challenging in Mariana's life. She coordinated the staff, prepared dishes carefully, and managed the orders with precision. Mistakes happened, spilled soup, missing ingredients, but she adapted quickly, finding solutions and keeping her team calm. By the end of the day, the banquet was a success. The clients complimented the food, and the staff thanked her for her leadership. Mariana felt exhausted, yet a deep sense of pride and accomplishment filled her heart. She had faced a challenge that had once seemed impossible, and she had succeeded. Even with these successes, life continued to test Mariana in ways she could not have anticipated. One afternoon, she noticed that her brother had been coughing frequently. At first, she dismissed it as a cold, but over time, she realized he might be sick. Fear gripped her once again. She did not have money for a doctor, and the thought of losing him was unbearable. But instead of giving in to despair, Mariana took action. She spoke with Don Archero, who immediately helped her take her brother to a clinic. The doctor confirmed that he had a mild infection and provided treatment that would help him recover. Mariana stayed by his side, giving him medicine, feeding him, and comforting him. It was exhausting and stressful, but she felt relief and gratitude when he began to get better. She realized that struggles, while painful, also taught her resilience, patience, and the importance of asking for help when needed. Through all these experiences, Mariana began to understand the deeper lessons of life. She realized that kindness was not just a gift to receive but a responsibility to share. She started helping other children who came to the restaurant looking for food or warmth. Sometimes it was as simple as giving a warm smile, helping them find a seat, or sharing extra bread. Other times, she guided them toward opportunities for learning or work, just as Don Archero had guided her. In helping others, Mariana discovered a sense of purpose that went beyond survival. It was a purpose rooted in compassion and empathy, and it made her feel stronger and more fulfilled than she had ever imagined. Mariana also began thinking about her own education. She had missed many years of school, and she longed to read, write, and learn more about the world. Don Archero encouraged her, arranging for a tutor to help her catch up. It was difficult to balance learning with work and caring for her brother, but Mariana approached it with the same determination that had carried her through hunger, cold, and fear. Slowly, she began to understand mathematics, grammar, and history. Each lesson was like a small victory, reminding her that knowledge could open doors she had never imagined. Even as Mariana grew stronger, she never forgot the hardships she had faced. The memories of hunger, fear, and cold nights on the streets remained with her, but they no longer paralyzed her. Instead, they became a source of motivation, a reminder that she had survived the worst and could now face challenges with courage and determination. She learned to see obstacles not as threats, but as opportunities to grow, to improve, and to prepare herself for a better future. One particularly cold winter night, Mariana and her brother huddled together in the small space Don Archero had set aside for them. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and snow covered the streets. For a moment, Mariana felt a pang of fear, the same fear she had felt on the streets months ago. But then she looked at her brother, asleep and safe, and she realized that they were no longer alone. They had a home, a mentor, food, and hope. She hugged him tightly and whispered, "We've made it this far. We will make it through anything." In that moment, Mariana understood the depth of her own resilience and the power of determination, courage, and love. By now, Mariana had transformed from a hungry girl into a young woman capable of facing life's challenges with strength and grace. She knew that more struggles would come, but she also knew that she had the tools, support, and inner strength to overcome them. She had learned that life was not just about surviving. It was about growing, learning, and finding ways to help others along the journey. Mariana had become not just a survivor, but a beacon of hope for herself, her brother, and others who faced hardship. And so, as Mariana looked toward the future, she felt a quiet confidence. Life had tested her in every possible way, but she had endured. She had faced hunger, fear, responsibility, and loss, and emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. She had discovered that true strength came not only from surviving difficulties, but from facing them with courage, learning from them, and using them to build a better life. The road ahead would not be easy, but Mariana knew she could walk it with determination and hope, ready to embrace every challenge and opportunity that life presented. Time passed, and Mariana's life slowly began to transform in ways she had only dreamed of. The struggles of the past, the hunger, the cold nights, the fear of losing her little brother, remained in her memory, but they no longer held her back. Instead, they fueled her determination to create a better life, not only for herself but also for her brother, and eventually, for others who had suffered as she had. Mariana had learned that life was not always fair, but it was possible to build a future full of hope, opportunity, and compassion. With the help of Don Archero, Mariana was able to save a small amount of money from her work at the restaurant. It was not much, but it was enough to rent a modest apartment where she and her brother could have privacy, warmth, and security. For the first time in years, they had a place to call home. The apartment was small and simple, but it felt like a palace compared to the streets. Mariana decorated it with small touches, some plants, a few books she had borrowed, and drawings from her brother. These small things reminded her that life could be beautiful, even after hardship. Mariana continued working at the restaurant, but now she had a sense of pride and accomplishment. She was no longer just trying to survive. She was building a career, learning professional skills, and earning the respect of her colleagues and customers. Her confidence grew with each day, and she began to see that her life could be more than mere survival. She could plan for the future, make decisions for herself and her brother, and even dream about long-term goals she had once thought impossible. Education became a priority for Mariana. She had missed many years of school, but with Don Archero's encouragement, she arranged for tutoring in the evenings. She studied diligently, learning to read and write fluently, practicing mathematics, and exploring new subjects that fascinated her. Each lesson was a victory, a step toward independence, and a reminder that knowledge could open doors she had never imagined. Mariana began to dream of continuing her education formally, perhaps even attending college one day, something she had never thought possible when she had been wandering the streets. Mariana also recognized the importance of helping others. She remembered the hunger she had felt, the cold she had endured, and the fear that had gripped her every night. She began volunteering at local shelters and community kitchens, offering her time and skills to children and families in need. She shared her story with them, not to seek pity, but to inspire hope. Mariana understood that one act of kindness could change a life, just as Don Archero's kindness had changed hers. She became a source of hope and encouragement, showing that it was possible to rise above circumstances, no matter how difficult. Her relationship with her brother grew stronger each day. Now that they were safe and had stability, Mariana could focus on nurturing him emotionally and intellectually. She read stories to him, taught him about the world, and encouraged him to dream. He, in turn, inspired her with his curiosity, resilience, and joy. Together they laughed more freely, explored their neighborhood, and celebrated small successes. The bond between them became unbreakable, a source of strength for both. Mariana realized that family, love, and care were as important as food, shelter, and education. Despite the stability they now enjoyed, Mariana never forgot the hardships she had endured. The memories of hunger, cold nights, and fear remained vivid, but they had become lessons. She understood that resilience, courage, and compassion were forged in the face of adversity. Mariana carried these lessons with her, letting them guide her decisions and actions. She taught her brother to do the same, so that he would grow strong, compassionate, and ready to face life's challenges. One day, Don Archero approached Mariana with a new opportunity. A local community center was looking for someone to teach cooking and life skills to young people who were struggling, just as Mariana had once struggled. At first, she hesitated, unsure if she was ready for such responsibility. But Don Archero reminded her of how far she had come, of the skills she had learned, and of the empathy she had developed through her own experiences. Encouraged by his faith in her, Mariana accepted the challenge. She began teaching young children and teenagers, guiding them with patience, care, and understanding. The work was rewarding, and Mariana felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Mariana's life was now full of purpose. She had transformed from a frightened, hungry girl into a confident, capable young woman who was shaping her own future and helping others along the way. Every step of her journey had been a lesson. That hope could survive even in the darkest moments, that courage could be found even in fear, and that kindness, both received and given, could change a life forever. Mariana had learned that true strength was not measured by wealth or status, but by the ability to rise above adversity and to support others in doing the same. Her story began to inspire those around her. Neighbors, colleagues, and even strangers who heard about her journey admired her resilience and determination. Mariana often spoke at local events, sharing her experiences to motivate and encourage young people who faced challenges similar to those she had endured. She became a symbol of hope, proving that no matter how difficult life may seem, it is possible to create a brighter future through courage, hard work, and compassion. Mariana also found joy in simple pleasures. She and her brother explored parks, visited libraries, and discovered hobbies that brought them happiness and creativity. They celebrated birthdays, achievements, and milestones with gratitude, cherishing the stability and love that had once seemed impossible. Mariana learned that happiness could coexist with hard work and responsibility, and that joy could be found even after hardship. Reflecting on her journey, Mariana realized that her life had been shaped by both struggle and kindness. The harsh lessons of hunger and fear had taught her resilience, determination, and empathy. The kindness of Don Archero had opened a door that changed everything, providing her with the tools, guidance, and hope she needed to transform her life. Mariana understood that her experiences, both good and bad, were valuable, and she vowed to honor them by helping others and living with purpose. As Mariana looked to the future, she felt a sense of confidence and peace. She had faced nearly insurmountable challenges and emerged stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Her brother was healthy, happy, and thriving. She had a home, a career, and a community that supported her. Mariana knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but she also knew that she had the inner strength and resilience to overcome them. She had learned to embrace each day with hope, courage, and determination. The journey from the streets to stability had not been easy. It had been filled with hunger, fear, and uncertainty, but it had also been filled with lessons, growth, and unexpected kindness. Mariana had discovered that even in the darkest times, there was always a possibility for change, a chance for hope, and a path toward a better life. She had learned that resilience, compassion, and determination could transform a life, and she carried these lessons in her heart every day. Finally, Mariana understood the true meaning of strength and success. It was not about wealth, status, or possessions. It was about the courage to face life's challenges, the willingness to learn and grow, and the ability to help others along the way. She had survived, she had grown, and she had created a life filled with purpose, hope, and love. Her story was a testament to the power of kindness, resilience, and determination, and it served as a reminder that no matter how difficult life may seem, it is always possible to rise above adversity and create a brighter future. Mariana often looked at her brother, now smiling and laughing in their small apartment, and felt a deep sense of pride. They had endured the worst, and yet here they were, safe, healthy, and full of hope. Mariana knew that life would continue to test them, but she also knew that they were strong enough to face any challenge. She had learned that even the smallest act of kindness could change a life, and she was determined to pass that kindness forward. In the quiet moments, Mariana reflected on her journey. From the streets to the restaurant, from hunger to opportunity, she had transformed not only her own life, but also the lives of those around her. She had become a source of hope, a guide for others, and a living example of resilience and courage. Mariana had learned that life's most difficult moments could also be its most important teachers, shaping a person's character, values, and vision for the future. Mariana's story became a legacy of hope. She continued to work hard, learn, and help others, always remembering the journey that had brought her to this point. She had faced hunger, fear, and uncertainty, but she had never given up. Her life was now filled with purpose, stability, and love, and she used her experiences to inspire and uplift others. Mariana had discovered that the greatest strength lies not in avoiding challenges, but in facing them with courage, compassion, and determination. And so Mariana's journey came full circle. From the frightened, hungry girl who had begged for a warm meal, she became a young woman of strength, wisdom, and compassion. She had survived, she had grown, and she had created a life filled with hope, love, and purpose. Her story was a testament to the power of kindness, the resilience of the human spirit, and the possibility of transformation. Mariana had learned that no matter how difficult life may seem, it is always possible to rise, to grow, and to create a brighter future for oneself and for those who come after.